When Mama said, don't be afraid, we believed Mama, didn't we? Jesus ends this verse by restating what he said at the beginning of this chapter, by repeating a refrain that we see throughout the Bible, as he will not be long with them. Scholars tell us that don't be afraid is one of the central admonitions of the Christian faith. Amen? Wherever people in the Bible are being asked to do something or accept something that is above their understanding or abilities, God, with all the plausible believability and authority that God possesses, always tells them, in spite of what they're facing or don't understand, Jesus, God, always says, don't be afraid.
All right.
God said it to Moses, amen, when he was trying to give excuses, amen, for going down and talking to the people, amen. God said it to Abram when he was establishing his covenant with Abram. God said it to Hagar to assure her that God had not forgotten about her nor about her son, amen. God said it to Mary at the thought of her being found with child and a virgin at the same time. And Jesus said it to Jairus when they told him to leave Jesus alone because his daughter was already dead. He said, don't be afraid.
Oh, yeah.
And if we listen closely, God always says the same thing to us when we face something that's beyond our abilities or understanding. We are naturally afraid. So God whispers in our ears, don't be afraid.
Oh, yeah.
Even before we mouth the words, Lord, I'm scared.
Yeah.
He's saying, don't be afraid.
All right.
And scholars suggest that it literally means, don't be terrified. Don't shake in your boots, amen? Suggesting that Jesus saw in the disciples some rising symptoms of that worldly weakness which would flatten them all before the night was over. Jesus says, don't be terrified.
All right.
By the dangers you may be exposed to and the trouble you may be affected by. For in the midst of them all, in me, you may have peace. Now, church, I'm not elevating Mama to God-like status. Don't y'all run out of here and send a letter to the bishop and say, Pastor Glenn said, Mama's God. And I'm not talking about lowering God to human status. But like these words of Jesus, Mama said, don't be afraid. And when she said, don't be afraid, we believe Mama. Whether monsters hiding in the dark corners of our rooms imagined or not, whether monsters lurking around the corner in our awakened walking around state, whether monsters in the voices of doubt and self-hate lurking around the recesses of our own minds, when Mama said, don't be afraid, we believed her over the roaring ugliness of the monsters in the world, in our homes, and in our minds. When Mama said, don't be afraid, we believed her and believed we could do anything in spite of our logical or illogical fears. Church, before I knew the verse, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. Mama said to me, you can do anything you set your mind to. All throughout my life, Mama was speaking to me Jesus' words of encouragement. She said, keep going. She said, don't give up. She said, don't let your enemies stop you. She said, never forget that even when nobody else does, I love you. She said people can only change, can only damage your body, but they can't kill your soul. She said you are uniquely and specifically made. She said you are never so far gone that you can't come back home. She said you can put your trust in me. And then she said, there's nowhere that you can go. There's nothing that you can say. And there's nothing that you can do to stop me from loving you. Those were Jesus' words falling past the lips of Mama.